I'm Alex Turner. I'm a visual artist living and working in the American Southwest, and I'm interested in exploring the intersection of art, nature, and technology. I moved to Arizona to pursue my MFA at the University of Arizona. Right after I moved there, I had heard about this research program that was tracking jaguar migration across the US-Mexico border. So I decided to reach out to the researchers, and I realized really quickly that there's a lot of similarities between their research and the surveillance program by the US Border Patrol. They use very similar technologies, camera technologies, but also AI technologies. They're using them in the same places. They just have very different end goals. What the scientists are doing, they're attempting to grasp the scale of migrations. Simply look at it and study it. But when it comes to humans, you're also seeing it being used to essentially discriminate or identify or protect borders, and it's used for political gain, and it's a very different agenda. In my statement, I asked the question, is there room for empathy in a system that promotes objectivity? True objectivity is really slippery. Any system designed or influenced by humans is going to feature some form of human subjectivity or bias. When you're allowing machines to do all of the decision making, the empathy is removed. I have tens of thousands of pictures from the cameras that I was maintaining. At some point, I had to decide that each image served a purpose, and when put together, tell a story and let the viewer, over the course of looking at all of the work, compile a fairly robust idea of what surveillance, passage of time, border politics, artificial intelligence, wildlife migration, what all of this can look like when it's intersecting and happening in the same space. The infrared cameras snap pictures every couple seconds that there's motion. So I went through and I picked out 8 pictures over the course of that 2 hours that show the 2 coyotes moving back and forth, climbing over this rocky terrain. The background is a large-scale digital photo that I made from the exact same perspective as the infrared camera. And so I'm drawn to the disparity between the two technologies, how the blurry, pixelated infrared pictures kind of stand in contrast to the high-fidelity landscape photographs. And I think that juxtaposition helps emphasize the gulf between technology and real-life experience. This work is about surveillance and accumulation of data. So I wanted to give the viewer a complete picture of the activity that cameras in this region capture. I didn't want to censor any of the content. In this case, humans with horses that are carrying bundles of drugs. In order to retrieve the footage from it, you have to go to these cameras. And so the next time I went to this camera, it had been destroyed. I'm assuming the cartel ended up seeing that camera and did not want their picture taken anymore. I had encounters with cartel, militia, and border patrol when I was out there, many of which were not the most comfortable or pleasant, but I did my best to stay safe, I guess. So when you feed the footage through the AI software, it attempts to identify subjects by placing green boxes around them. And then it gives you their best guess as to what it is. And it was one thing to see those mechanics applied to images of deer where it's 90% sure that's a deer. And it's another thing entirely when you see it applied to humans. In fact, one of the first pictures I tested was one of myself, and it labeled me 78% likely to be human. And that's where the bias and discrimination can come in. In many systems, it learns what a human is based on the examples provided. And so the author of that collection of data has a lot of power, especially if the AI's decision isn't questioned. So this was a member of a Southern Arizona militia who ran back and forth past my camera over the course of 4 hours one night. A lot of my other pictures show you this accumulation, but I'm also interested in showing how ephemeral or fleeting human presence can be. In a case like this, it feels like the figure is both there and not there, almost like a ghost. Wherever we go, we're leaving traces of ourselves, but that in the grand scheme of time, our presence here is very, very minimal, very fleeting.